Hey there, friends. Meteorologist Shane Smith here with you. By the time you're watching this video, it is going to be Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. And the weather pattern across the Bluegrass is beginning to shift a bit. And for the first time in a while, we're not really talking about widespread thunderstorms. In fact, tonight, as I'm recording this around 11 o'clock, good old Radar Omega is nice and dry across the entire Commonwealth of Kentucky. In fact, we got to go all the way down to Tennessee and Georgia, or all the way back up to Iowa to find any kind of precipitation anywhere close by. In fact, the Ohio Valley calming down a little bit, and that's thanks in part to a big area of high pressure starting to build across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. A big heat ridge is starting to build, and this area of hot, dry air, well, relatively dry, at least as far as precipitation chances. It's really humid. But this area of hot air is going to continue to build and expand. This heat dome is going to push out, and that's going to push our storm chances down at least for a couple of days. But as we get into the weekend, that heat ridge is going to weaken a little bit and usher in our next chances of widespread storms here in the Bluegrass State. But in the meantime, heat advisories rolling from about Bowling Green to the west, with extreme heat warnings from Paducah and Mayfield to the west. So some pretty serious heat out in western Kentucky. We're talking triple-digit heat indices, or feels like temperatures, for Wednesday, Thursday, and likely Friday. So that the heat's going to be on across the west. Now here in central and southeastern Kentucky and eastern Kentucky, not really as bad. It's going to be hot. It's going to be typical July, beginning of August hot, but it's not going to be dangerous hot. Now, when you start getting those extreme heat warnings like they're seeing from Paducah and to the west, that's dangerous heat. That's kind of heat that can cause heat exhaustion and heat stroke very quickly. It's going to be hot in London and Lexington and Corbin and Somerset and a lot of places where folks follow me, especially out for my WYMT days for folks in Hazard, Pikeville up to Prestonsburg, over towards Syersville and West Liberty. It's going to be hot the next couple of days, but it's not going to be that brutal, dangerous kind of heat that we're going to see out in western Kentucky. Let's take a look at just how hot those temperatures could go as we go through the next couple of days. We're going to go ahead and put the heat index map into motion. This is Wednesday afternoon. Heat index in Paducah at 4 o'clock, 105. How about near 100 in Bowling Green? 102 in Evansville. So down in Henderson and Owensboro, you're going to be right around 100. Not as bad Lexington, about 90, low 90s in Somerset, London, and Corbin and Williamsburg, probably near 90 in the mountains with some upper 80s up around Whitesburg. That's one of the typical cool spots in the state and the higher elevations there up in the mountains of Letcher County. Take you on into Thursday. Those heat indices are going to climb even higher. Notice the whites starting to become more prevalent in this map. Paducah, Evansville, all with 104 plus heat index values. That feels like temperature. Bowling Green, E-Town, Louisville, all in the triple digits. And even by this point, most of eastern Kentucky starting to get into the mid to upper 90s. Same story up in central Kentucky. The heat continues to grow and expand on into Friday. And then as we go into the weekend, you'll notice those heat indices likely not going as high, at least overall, although Sunday, that's pretty brutal in Paducah, 107. Let's talk about why some of those heat index values may be going down as we go into the weekend. Wednesday, small chance of a pop-up storm. Thursday, same story. We're talking 10 to 20%. Not many of us will see rain. We might even bump that up to 30% on Thursday based on what I'm seeing on the new run of the GFS. Friday, a little bit more moisture, a little bit of a disturbance from the northwest, a few scattered thunderstorms. Better chances Saturday into Sunday as that pattern goes a little bit more active and that heat ridge buckles a little bit and we start to see some disturbances right along the northern side of that ridge. It's the old ring of fire weather pattern as we get into the weekend and early next week, and I think that should suppress some of the heat across a good chunk of the bluegrass, just not maybe everyone. And you'll see that here on the 10-day temperature map. Mid 80s for highs in London on Saturday, back to the low 90s Sunday, and then we'll crank those 90s back in for Monday and Tuesday. And then you'll notice a couple more cold fronts next week. So the heat's going to be on for a couple of days. Definitely feeling that heat here in the dog days of summer, but I don't think it's going to be a brutal heat here in eastern Kentucky. Friends out west, different story. You definitely want to take those heat precautions. Be sure to drink plenty of fluids, stay hydrated, and take frequent breaks if you're going to be working outside, because that heat is nothing to mess around with once you start seeing those heat index values pushing 105 plus. That's some dangerous heat for this part of the world. Okay, that's all we have right now. I'll probably have some quick video updates the next couple of days, or some Facebook posts. Weather's looking a little bit quieter, so I'm going to try to enjoy that before we start getting ready for back to school. That's going to be here in 2 weeks, so I'm going to have to get that old teacher brain going once again, in addition to the weather brain. Speaking of weather brains, had a really good episode back on Monday night, remembering the late, great Gary England, chief meteorologist out from News 9 in Oklahoma City. Kind of wrote the textbook on severe weather coverage. So if you're a weather enthusiast, check out Weather Brains, where you can find out just more about him. And that's just a great weather podcast to listen to. So I figure I'd give them a plug. All right. If you haven't yet, hit the follow button on my Facebook page. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on all the socials. You can see those at the bottom left corner of your screen, and I'll keep you updated here on the latest in southern and eastern Kentucky weather. I'm meteorologist Shane Smith. Until next time, friends, take care. Stay weather aware. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.